Hi everyone, we're Team ParaDocs and thank you so much for joining us today for our fall validation demo, Encore. Our team is Param, Liwei, and Shivangi, Abhishek, and Kimi, and we are mentored by our wonderful mentors Branko, Parker, Sundaram, and Kaushik from Smith & Nephew. And today we are joined by our patient, Skelly, in the operating room. Skelly entered the OR complaining of severe pain in his left knee, and the doctor ordered an X-ray, which revealed that the cartilage between Skelly's tibia and femur has worn off. This is a condition known as osteoarthritis, and unfortunately, it is the cause of about 800,000 total knee arthroplasties that happen in the United States alone annually. And Skelly is going to be facing the same fate as one of those 800,000 people. What actually happens in the total knee replacement surgery? So, in the total knee replacement surgery, the damaged part of the bone is cut off and then replaced by an implant. But for this implant to fit nice and snug on the bones, surgeons place a surgical guide on top of the bones and make these incisions on which the implants can fit. This is the procedure of putting a surgical guide onto the knee, where this is a guide and the pins are slit into the bone, and a surgical saw then makes the beautiful incisions that you could see on the previous slide. On this entire part of the surgery, the one that we're going to be focusing on today is here, where you're drilling surgical pins to keep the surgical guide in place. So, we are not actually replacing surgeons in a total knee arthroplasty, we're simply assisting them in one part of the surgery. This brings us to our solution, an autonomous, non-invasive, and robust robotic assistant for total knee arthroplasty. Autonomous. Why do we say we're autonomous? Well, the entire part of the surgery we're performing can be done without any requirement for human intervention. This means everything from planning to drilling to registration can be done without any surgeon's input. But for our purposes, we may be taking their input just to improve accuracy. Non-invasive. So, in actual total knee arthroplasty that happens today, we have IR trackers that are used to locate where the knee is or where the surgical saw is. But this is very invasive and it's actually drilled into your femur and tibia. So today, we're going to be replacing it with a non-invasive solution where all the IR tracking will be replaced by a simple RGB camera that we can see mounted on the end effector there. Finally, we're robust. We have to be robust because an operating theater is not a deterministic environment. Things go wrong, the bone may move, we may have to stop the surgery. So, keeping all of those factors into account, we have made sure that our system is robust. This is our system, which comprises of a KUKA LBR Med 7, a Dremel 9100 drill, and an Intel RealSense D405, which we hope will be giving us the same accuracy that an IR tracker does. The process.
Right, so going over the process, we have 3 stages. First, the plan, which is a static pose that we define with respect to the scan. The idea is if we localize the scan in the scene, we know where to build. The next question we want to answer is where is the femur here? Or more specifically, where is the femur here? Because this is the actual scene that's seen by the camera on the end effector. Well, it's right here. This is what a registration pipeline does. It localizes the exact position of it. And if we do that, we know where to drill. And then we can go ahead and build. So last week for FVD, we showed 2 major objectives. First is surgeon IO. So for any registration process, you need an initial estimate of where the bone is to refine it. And instead of engineering a complicated object detection or some heuristics, we just ask the input from the expert. So we ask the surgeon to add 2 points, one on the femur and one on the tibia, which serves as the initial input to our system, which helps make it more robust, and it's also an intuitive interface for the surgeon to use. Secondly, we introduced a tracking module, where once the femur and tibia are annotated, we are able to propagate and track them, which enables us to compensate for motion and also allows us to be registered. And finally, what is new this week for the Encore? The biggest change is that for the entire past 1 year, we've been exclusively working for the femur, and for the first time ever, we're introducing the tibia. So now we're able to register and drill holes on both the femur and the tibia. The trade-off being it's double the registration time because we register twice, once for each bone. Another thing to note is that the femur scan was a high quality scan provided to us by Smith and Nephew, where they used a metric grade, something like a handy scanner to scan it. But tibia was a last minute distance, we didn't have time to do this. So instead, we used our iPhone, a free trial of a photogrammetry app, and we just got the scan ourselves. So, which means the accuracy will be slightly less, but overall, it does a good enough job. Finally, we hope to show more surgical pose variety, where we plan to drill on the condyle, that is the curved part of the femur, no flexion drill, and more orientations. And finally, in an actual surgery, the entire bone won't be visible. There will be some degree of occlusion. So we'll be trying to limit test our system and prove that even with severe occlusion, we can still register and run. Coming to the verification criteria.
So all of this is nice and good, but how do we verify that we actually got the accuracy we wanted? Our aim for this FVD is to have our accuracy to be within 2 millimeters of the desired pose that the surgeon wants to drill. This will be verified by placing a stencil on top of the place that we have drilled and checking that it lies within the desired circumference. This hole is not actually going to be 2 millimeters, this is going to be a bit larger because the hole we're drilling is not a point hole, it does have some diameter to it. And if we add that offset to the desired place that we want to drill, because we add the diameter of the hole that we're drilling, we get a little bit of an offset from the 2 millimeters. So we have about an 8.4 millimeter wide hole within which the entire drilled part should be lying to prove that our accuracy is within 2 millimeters. Let's come and see our motion in action.
Motion companies.
Yeah. So let's start with the first demo. We're just going to be showing what we already showed before in our FPD, which was drilling in the femur itself. But we're going to be adding some motion compensation like last time. What is motion compensation? So, like I mentioned during our robustness, there is a lot of motion that can happen in the knee during surgery because your your ankle is clamped during the surgery, but the knee itself is not actually clamped down. So there may be some way during the motion that is happening. So we will compensate for that by ourselves introducing some motion.
Okay, so coming to the demo. What are we looking at over here? So this screen here is our surgeon UI. The thing to the right is the feed from this camera here. This point cloud is what is visible here. These buttons are what the surgeon would use to interact with our system. Coming to the workflow. Step 1, as mentioned, is annotating the points. So I start off, I mark a point on the femur, mark one on the tibia, and it starts. Now, this frame here is our tracking window. The points over here marked are femur and tibia. If they're green, the bone is stable. If they're yellow, bone's moving. Red, bone's not visible. Right now, you can see the bones are stable. It's green. If I move it, it is yellow. And if I were to cover it, loses visibility, it's red. And now that we have annotated, our registration is active. So, as you can see, the blue and the red dots. The red dots are the femur scan overlaid on top of the bones. The blue is the tibia scan. We did not have this last time. This is what is new for us. And yeah, those markings are the poses. And yeah, let's get started. So, first step in the process, I switch on the manipulation. So fire is off, just the tracker is on. Now that I switch that on, it's going to track. As she mentioned, the manipulator needs to compensate for any motion. So during a procedure, a lot of things would change. One is, well, there could be a side-to-side motion. There could be a change in flexion. Or there could just be general motion all around the scene. And now that we have this, the next step in our workflow is we give the option to the physician to re-register. Now, of course, this is meant to be to keep them more involved in the process. But the real reason is, of course, that there's crazy amounts of CPU and GPU load with the registration and the tracking. So sometimes there's a lag and we don't want to drill in the wrong spot. So yeah, once I re-registered, we can visually look at the cloud to see if it is registered well enough. Now, as you can see, even with the noise in the point cloud, all the disturbance, it is a pretty good registration fit. Let's get started with our first drill. So now that I've clicked start drill, but now that I've confirmed that the registration is fine, it's going to go ahead and drill, and we can see that now. I'm going to stop this guy midway so that you can see the registration on the. Yeah, one. So as you can see in that tracker feed over there, the hole lies within our circle of the stencil, if you can see it. Go, you guys. That's good. Yeah. Good. Good. Okay, let me just send this guy back home.
So the fact that we can see the entire hole through the stencil proves that we have got an accuracy of 2 millimeters while drilling the field.
And the fact that it's not on the complete edge means it's lesser than 2 millimeters. But yeah, we are being able to do this with a real sense. You all have worked with real senses, or whoever has, you know the amount of noise that the system has. So the fact that we are still close or lesser than 2 millimeters is that we are at the absolute limits of what this sensor can actually do. Let's try some more poses. Coming to the second demo, we were asked to, well, change the pose. Let's try it. While I change the pose. So what we wanted to do is drill a point somewhere on the curved surface. So I'm going to increase the flexion so that the end effector can actually reach there and not collide with the bones. So the point is like here, I can show you what it looks like on this. So this point over here is what we're trying to drill on this part of the bone. So yeah, well, you can see the registration is good fit. And let's drill. Okay, let's stop this midway so that I can show it to you on the camera. Hi, okay, so yeah, this stencil is a little icky, it's not fitting perfectly.
Stencil, it doesn't fit very well on the
Yeah,
curve. So
there we go.
So it's
But-
finicky.
But yeah, as you can see, the hole is visible from our stencil's hole. You're gonna come and get a closer look? Yeah. It's, yeah, the close surface is kind of making it pop out, so, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay. Let's get this back home and move on to a third demo. So far, we have just been drilling on the femur. This time for Encore, we want to try drilling the tibia. So first of all, let's change the flexion again. Okay. Same work, so let's get started.
Now what we are doing here?
Now, of course, you can see a little disparity between what the registered cloud is and the actual cloud is because, and this is something you notice because, well, we used the iPhone to scan it. So, but that said, it's a pretty good fit, and let's go ahead and drill it. Let's add some variability to the system, like, well, have some motion compensation, just because. And we can register and the So we have our different stencil for the tibia and okay. Our accuracy is a little off for this one.
Where are those
yeah.
up higher?
That's
Oh, sorry, there it is, yeah.
So it should
Little
have
above.
been, but it's a little like it's barely visible.
Yeah, down here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Just be like that.
yeah, so it's like right
It's like
here,
Right there.
here. It's like
I don't like your stencil. Pardon? I think this can be.
yeah. It's
Okay.
This is a great stencil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's actually possible. Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. The next one.
Going to see what they were saying.
Pardon?
Yeah.
It's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're doing the tibia again, but with
Let's add some variability to this. We'll change the flexion, change the yaw, and see the performance. We can do a different yaw as well.
You mean pose and on the plane or
Yep.
also flex it up as well?
If you do want to try this flexion, we can do that.
Like
The
this.
next one, we can
Okay,
change that. So this way you can do this.
yeah, I'm gonna go the opposite way, assuming that you can handle it.
If we are
Too
doing that
far, maybe
rotation,
too far in.
might want to get it a little ahead because then
Yeah.
this manipulator won't change. And
Will that be good?
it's really good. Should be able to.
Okay, it looks like it. yeah. Just different.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's also- Not problems.
You don't, yeah.
Okay, so coming back, let's drill this other position with this variability added.
So still the tibia that you're going? Yeah,
Yes.
it's a different part of the tibia.
Okay, let's have a look with the stencil. Well, this time it's better. As you can see, our drill hole is visible through the stencil.
The accuracy of our tibia hole this time is much better than the previous one because we're now able to see the hole through the stencil. So that's great.
This variability also comes in due to deflection. As more of the point cloud of the bone is visible, or in different flexions, lesser of it is visible, registration gets a little thrown off naturally. If you can't see it, you can't register to it. Yeah, getting to our next demo. With the occlusion. What happens if we further reduce what the camera can see? Okay.
So we'll take a minute to set this up. Meanwhile, we'll show our results for the change in pitch.
We also did a another case on the comfort where there's a variation in shape. It becomes slightly harder because the moment it rotates a bit, you can't see it completely. The respiration is slightly thrown off, so depending on that value. But still have offline results where the video was beginning, but the accuracy will be better. Yeah, we tested its variations also, and our system still has some limitations going over them. One is very expensive computers needed, so we need to look into optimizing the tracker. It's not built actually. Then sometimes RTF videos happen, planner needs to be defined, automatic calculation process, but yeah, not a problem. So the maximum version of a registration last time it takes like 5 seconds. But when the full tracker and system is running, it can take up to 20 seconds. We don't use that version anymore. We use a much more optimized version. But I think
It's not high.
it matters if you want to do motion component. If everything is static and fixed, and then you just want to do it, yeah, it'll be fine.
Why not move the arm around to see the parts that are not?
It was one of the things we had in mind where we can just get multiple poses and scan it and maybe do some sort of reconstruction or something, using nerve or something. But we don't have time for that. That's maybe our idea.
So we pitch that to our juniors. So we pitch that to the juniors to continue on that.
That's why they found a good use case for ripped jeans.
We ripped the gene.
This
Today.
morning.
So,
Yep.
Fair enough.
Alright, so that's our final demo. Most of the bone is now occluded with only, so in an actual surgery, this is about how much of the bone is visible when the surgeon makes an incision. And we are trying to do our registration and drilling with as much accuracy as possible. This is very much a stretch case for us. So even a decent registration and drilling would be a good outcome.
So, as you can see, this is what the camera is able to see. Apart from the femur, a part of the femur and tibia is visible, and the rest of it is occluded by genes. Well, of course, it's skin and tissue normally, but in our case, it's genes. Even after that, you can see this registration output. That even with the occlusion, this is how good the registration is. This is thanks to our annotations because we can filter out and only consider the point cloud that we actually care about. That is the bone. For the sake of repeatability, let's do the first. Oh, we changed the bone. Okay, let's do the first point in the femur again. Let's go. Oh, sorry.
Did you annotate? No, was that expected?
That's okay.
It probably dropped the message because, well, the load's too much. Ross sometimes drops messages.
So it drilled the same hole that we drilled in the previous demo instead of taking the input right now because the message dropped. But we can try to do one more femur drill.
Check the video.
We can test it out. Yeah, let's drill.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Drop the message.
It dropped the message. Let me see, how do I slide this?
So we can test
And-
the accuracy, I think, a bit later because we're running out of time, but that was us. So thank you and break a leg.
That said, the femur accuracy, even with the genes, it's right in the center of the hole.
Oh, wow, okay.
You can have it.
Bullseye.
Yes.
Wow. What? How?
How? Whatever. Don't ask me that. You're not supposed to ask.
And tibia is also actually pretty good.
The bullseye and the tibia too.
So,
Did you use a different stance?
no, it's the same stretch.
Yeah, it was, because it seemed like much more accurate
It
now.
feels, maybe the bone.
Maybe
was
the
like-
way, the way.
The
you put
flexion
it up.
has a different.
Because this will fit maybe differently than you'd say.
Yeah, because
Probably it's flexing a little, yeah.
if I reduce the flexion, then it's more occluded.
It's gonna be fixed. To remember, because someday when we do it on, I wanna remember this, because someday we're gonna do this for real. And I'm gonna say, I have the date on the first one,
First actually.
the first iteration.
Like once we started. Yeah. Because we opened. What I want is.
Leave it? Give me. I think Sarah.
Because it's not just.
Sure. I'm really big. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Good to see you.
You too.
Yeah, how's your life? How are you? How are you? This year.